So, under normal circumstances, I would normally say, welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Welcome, Thomas.
But I am fortunate enough to call you Ken. So I say, welcome, Ken.
Yeah, welcome to you.
Ken, we have quite a long journey together with Ortega bassist and Ken Taylor, of course. But today I have the chance, because we haven't seen each other here at the headquarters for a long time.
That's right.
Today I have the chance just like to, and I'm really burning for to ask you some questions about like your career, because you have a more than 50 years running career as a bass player, studio, session bass player, live bass player. So can you tell me how this all started? I mean, which age you started to play? Where did it all started? And tell me about the first jobs. And like, I'm sure it was not that easy
No.
to be as a musician, but like maybe you're also one of those kids who had that one dream.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit where it started. And
Yeah. Well, my parents are from Jamaica. I was born in London. And when I started, I was about 14. So I was fortunate enough to be able to play in the backing bands of Desmond Dekker and Jimmy Cliff. These Caribbean artists of that time, when they came to London, they wouldn't bring their bands with them because it cost too much. So they had a band in London. We used to go around to the different circuits, different clubs, and play with them. So I was fortunate enough to be in one of those bands.
but you just said you were 14.
I was
1-4.
Yes.
And you already worked as a. So
Yeah.
how could you do that? Like, I mean, those bands play in the evening, in the nights. You're
Yeah.
14 years old. How did you do that? I mean, did your parents agree what you
Yeah,
do?
yeah. My parents didn't like it that much. I must tell the truth. But they saw the passion in my eyes. I really liked playing, and I got a call from a friend of Eddie Grant, those days, who had a band called the Equals. And he said, "Oh, you feel like Jimmy Cliff is coming over? You feel like playing?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I played in that band, and we went round to circuits of London, different clubs, and just played.
So it's also must have been not too easy. I mean, I'm sure you played gigs also for food and drinks, or just for a few pence or pounds or whatever.
For nothing.
For nothing.
I mean, when I say nothing, it was the minimal, minimal wage. We tried to get to the gig as best as we could, even on the buses. It was rough times, but we had so much fun playing.
So you went on a gig. You're telling me you went on a gig carrying your bass amplifier.
Oh, yeah.
You get on the red bus in London
the red
City,
bus in London,
get through London
with my
play
little
a gig,
combo, yes,
and go home by bus again.
That's right. Because you only got £1 or £2 if you were lucky.
Wow.
So that was it,
Amazing.
But it was so much fun.
But you must have had a lot of passion for that, because like normally you would say like, okay, I would not do that, I would not just like travel around. It's only like £1 or £2 and
That's it,
or maybe
yeah.
a drink or some food.
Yeah.
But it's all about the passion. It's all about the fun, right?
Oh,
it's
we
like
had
this is
so
the
much
motor,
fun.
right? That drives
Yeah.
you, keeps you going.
That's right. That's right. We had so much fun because a lot of those artists, the ska, it was called ska music at that time, and blue beat music, and we just loved it because it was the going music at that time for the Caribbean people. A lot of the English people started to come over um, to like that music, you know. And at the same time, we could get to see other bands and introduce them to this Caribbean music, which was really nice. And in the 60s in London, as you know, there was the Beatles, who we saw, Stones, all of these pop bands at that time.
Is this how the love then came from, just like before, just focusing on the Caribbean music
Yeah.
into the rock and roll music? Seeing Stones, Hendrix, the Beatles?
Yeah, they got influenced by this as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they did, you know, because later on in the 80s, you heard Police playing a lot of reggae style music, Elvis Costello, a lot of the bands got influenced with the Caribbean music.
But London is known as like the heart of the music. So
Yeah,
many
yeah,
bands, like the birthplace of rock and roll,
Yeah.
London, Birmingham, all these
That's
cities. But you decided to go to Germany.
That's right, because a lot of the bands at that time got offers to go to Hamburg, as the Beatles did, and we said, "Oh, let's do it. Let's go. Let's leave England and discover some other countries." So a lot of the English bands, they just went to Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Scandinavia, Denmark. You know, all of those Scandinavian countries, and it was really a great experience, you know. And the people in Europe had never heard of the music that we were doing the Afro-Caribbean music, like soca and calypso and all of that. They never heard it before. So for them, it was a great experience. And we were having fun playing it for them.
But you traveled to Germany, Europe, and all those countries you
That's
just described
right.
for
Yeah.
touring.
Yeah, I met my wife in Switzerland.
And finally, you stayed.
And then we decided to stay.
Yeah.
You know.
So how it happened that you made a name to become what you would call today like one of the most first called session bass player?
Well, you know,
How does that work?
It's never planned that way. It just happens, you know. But we moved to Munich, and we started playing in the studios there. That was called the Munich Sound at that time. So there were bands like Silver Convention, Amandelier, different artists there. And we went in the studio, and they liked what we were doing. And I was playing in the mornings, doing all the backing tracks. My wife in the afternoon would go and sing all the choirs. And that's how we started getting into the studio scene.
So you were just mentioning a Silver Convention. So that is connected to Frank Farian, the legend producer.
He wasn't involved with that. He was involved with Boney M, which my wife sang on, and I played some of the basses. But yeah, that's the thing. You know, at that time, if you were open to a lot of different types of music, then the producers would be willing to call you and say, "Well, okay, I have a track here. Would you play it?" You know, and that's how we got into the whole studio scene.
Yeah, and back in these days, I remember we had a conversations a couple of years ago about that. You also had to do a lot of pioneer work, like when those disco and dance scene in the 70s and 80s came up. Like those guys were starting to work with sequencers, with samplers, but they were the first big expensive machines. But they haven't had any sound in there. So you had to deliver the live sound to be recorded into these machines they
That's
later
right.
used to produce world hits.
That's
So
right.
there are many disco, dance
yeah.
floor hits.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who carry your bass lines,
That's
but they
right.
come out of a sequencer,
That's
but you
right.
put them in first, you
That's
know?
right. That's right. Because they had no source. They had nothing. So we instead of saying, okay, I don't like samplers, the first samplers, we just put all the sounds in there. That was okay.
So that is what was not existing back then became
No.
now an industry standard, you
No,
know?
no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, amazing. So as a first core session player, let's stay in the studio scene. I mean, you have to get along with so many different styles, so many different characters.
That's right.
I mean, every musician is an ego, and you get called just like, okay, do this and this and this. How is this for you as a bass player? Is it just a regular job? You just like, you don't look left, you don't look right, you just do what you're asked to do, or
I understand. The thing is that eventually I started to play for artists who had a concept. They had great lyrics, what they wanted to portray, but they didn't have so much of the songs. They would have had maybe a little idea of a song, and we as studio musicians, we would arrange these songs, or work on the songs, put bass lines on the songs, drum patterns, all of these things, and work on an album for days and to make something out of it. And this was the most interesting part of it. And at the end of it, you sit down because there was nothing there to start with. But you could see the passion in the eyes of the artist. I won't mention any, but it's happened many, many times over the years that an artist would come in to the studio and say, guys, help me, you know? And we would see this, we'd feel this, and we would help the artist. We would help this person, man or woman, wouldn't matter, you know, and we would work on these songs. And at the end of it, you'd get the reward of listening to what you've done or what you created. This was really great.
amazing. This also what really fascinates me is there is only a few. I would even say a handful of bass players who are the same good as being a session bass player and a live bass player, because normally you can separate, right? It's not a must that a live bass player is a good studio bass player, or a good studio bass player looks good on a live stage. But like you playing, for example, like since more than 30 years now with one of Germany's biggest rock stars, Peter Maffay, in his band. And I'm always fascinated by like the basics, because like you as a bass player together with the drummer, which is Bertram Engel in the Peter Maffay band, just like you guys, you have to keep the whole thing together. I mean, you always can say like you are the part to give the guitar players and the singer, the boss or whoever, the freedom to run around to do whatever they want.
That's it.
But you have to keep straight, you have to keep going, like whatever. So this is.
I mean, one thing you've got to say about Peter is that he knows what he wants, and he's got an amazing voice. And the songs are great to play. So all you want to do is really back him, be behind him, back him. It's just a great feeling when the band kicks in, and we know after doing 2 or 3 weeks of rehearsal, and on the first gig that we do, there's nothing to stop you. Just keep going.
I mean, which would bring up the question to me is live or studio? What do you prefer?
Wow, that's a hard to answer question. because I like both things. Because I've spent so many times, over 40 years, in the studio, and I love creating. I love working on the songs. I love finding out new bass lines for songs and stuff. That's my main thing. But after the songs are arranged and put together with all the work, then you go and play those songs live. And to see in the faces of the people what you created. You know, when you go into a stadium and there's 40,000 people there and they're singing along to what you created in the studio, there's no better feeling. So it's hard to say which one is better.
So, but it's also very seldom that like you have both worlds, you know, like
Yeah.
because there are many musicians like they want to close the doors of a studio
Yeah.
and work there, but just like they're not like to go on stage. So you still enjoy touring, right?
I still enjoy touring, even after all these years.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's really nice, especially if musicians, we're all looking in each other's eyes and ready to go, ready to play, and, you know, shaking hands. And it's lovely. It's a great feeling. And especially to back, you know, a singer like Peter, for instance, or like Udo, you know, it's like, it's a wonderful feeling.
Is there any crazy story you can tell us from your 50 years careers that happened to you on stage or in studio? Is there something you really remember, something you had to play, you really felt strange about? Or,
yeah, you know? There was one time my wife and we were so overworked. And we said, we're going to go on holiday. And nothing's going to stop us from going on holidays, even if Bruce Springsteen calls. And at the time, I was on tour with Wolfgang Niedecken, and we were touring with him. And I even said to him a couple of days beforehand, Wolfgang, when the tour is over, I'm going on holiday with my wife because we're finished. We're totally tired now. As we were in the bus, the telephone rang. Those days they had telephones in the buses, and the person said, "I'm Bruce Springsteen here. We'd like we've got a gig in Berlin, and we'd like you guys to play." We put the phone down because we thought somebody was joking.
Because it was the end of the tour, so whatever.
It was the end of the tour, and you know, we were just too tired. They rang again, and it was his record company or his manager, I seem to remember. I said, "Hey, this is Bruce Springsteen's management. We'd like to have you playing." Now, I had to explain to my wife that Bruce Springsteen called, and we're going to do a gig with him.
So there are two sides. Here's holidays and here's Bruce Springsteen. What's the decision, right?
Oh, yeah. So I played the gig with Bruce Springsteen and then went on holiday with my wife afterwards. We just delayed it on a few days.
Yeah, but I guess a great experience to play with the boss, right?
Wonderful to play with him. One of the greatest experiences of my life, to play with the boss. Unbelievable.
Talking about bass playing, I mean, what is your preferred technique? Are you a plectrum guy or are you a finger guy? Or you just do both and you just use what supports the song best?
That's right. It's what the song needs. I used to play with the plectrum a lot years ago. I was a real fan of guys like Helmut Hattler and Chris Squire from Yes. So and Steffi Stefan also plays with a pick. So I used to like these guys. I still do. I still like them. And I played with a pick, but I play with my fingers as well, being an old reggae player.
Besides your work with Peter Maffay, live and studio, and of course, to mention Udo Lindenberg, live mostly. Is there any artist you can name, just like you have been worked with, you have been played with in the past, just to name a few? I know it's hard to select because there's many, but like
been quite a few. But who comes to mind is Robert Palmer. I would say I learned a lot from him regarding songwriting and recording. He's a wonderful man, wonderful musician.
So you guys also did the Addicted to Love album, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Lovely. I mean, it's a milestone. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, without saying it wrong, I just want to search for the right words. It's like, and I mean it in a positive way. Like, what would you say as being the older generation of the musician? Like, I mean, you've been around since 50 years as a professional player. How do you see the scene of the younger players today? I mean, the appearance is totally different. I mean, the technique became totally different.
Yes.
I remember, I mean, you are that kind of live band who also just like records live in a studio. These days you do a lot of with sending files back and forth and things like that. But there's still so many great young talents. So if a young talent asks you as the experienced player, what would you give him on his way? Just like...
I would say keep the fun. Keep the nice feeling of whatever you do. Stick to your style. And don't let it be a thing just about money or the music business as it is, because it's changed since I started until now. The whole music business has changed. It's about getting how many clicks you get, and I think that frustrates a lot of the younger players today. But you have to keep your fun. That's what we had. I'm not saying that the old days were better. I'm just saying, as far as a human being is concerned and loving the music itself, you should keep that.
Yeah, I think that can be the roots for everything, like, because like it starts with fun. I mean, all the rest, if it's built on fun, I think you also can feel it in the music you play. If somebody plays because he likes what he's doing, makes a big difference of if you play because you have to play or you are forced to play it.
That's right.
That's a big thing. While we are sitting here, I just was thinking, I'm not sure if you remember, but talking about the relationship between Ken Taylor, you, and Ortega basses. Do you know we already have a 14-year relationship today? 14 years?
And the years go by so quickly.
Yeah. So I remember exactly when we did your when we had our first meeting. So we ran into each other, let's say by accident, and about 14 years ago we made the first Ken Taylor signature bass.
That's right.
And a year later we adjusted a little bit, and that one that was made like 13 years ago, the KT-4 and KT-5 basses have been there since then. I mean, played the same unmodified bass more than 10 years.
That's right.
And of course, as we are making acoustic basses, I mean, mostly like in a rock and roll show, you're an electric bass player, but like there was always enough space and the demand on using acoustic bass. And I exactly remember the first moment when we did the first real Ken Taylor signature bass.
That's right.
And I brought it to rehearsals. You just were doing rehearsals for an anniversary tour.
Right.
And I was late on the Autobahn.
That's it.
And so I just was running in the room and we put them out of the cases. We tuned them up.
That's right.
And unfortunately, the first song in the rehearsal was an acoustic-based song.
Right.
So I was sweating. I was sweating. And I never forget the moment, like just like when we plugged in and you started to play the song and your boss turned around and with a little smile in his face, looking at the audio engineer just like was smiling. So I said like, we did something right.
That's it.
So that was really a great feeling. And that bass is the one you still have.
That's right.
From today.
Still have it today. And it's just amazing. Wonderful to play. And that was actually a running gag through that tour, that I can just take my basses out of a cardboard box and it sounds really good. And all the engineers and the techs were laughing at that because it happened, as you said.
Yeah, no, that is something to remember.
Oh, yeah.
But like, so about 1 year ago, I was, let's say, put it in marks, I was arrogant enough to come up with the idea and said like, okay, maybe after 10 years of that bass guitar, it's time to give it a retirement. Let's work on something new.
That's right.
And like, exactly like on the first bass, and this is what I appreciate so much on our partnership is, I came up with an idea. I presented to you a first very rough prototype thing, and I had kind of a little bit of crazy idea, you can say, different from what we did so far. And the same way, like in the first bass, you just let me do.
That's
You
right.
we didn't make a big plan or drawings or talking about frequencies or materials or whatever. Just like I said, Ken, I have an idea, and you said, okay, just go for it and surprise me.
That's it.
And this is what really is so wonderful with our partnership, because then it's so much fun to me, just like to design something and to create something. And I'm still excited like a kid on Christmas to come with the result to you. And I presented the very, very first prototype to you, which has almost nothing to do with the real thing now we have now in our hands. And from you played it and you called me and you said like, man, we are going in the right direction.
Exactly.
And
exactly. Another wonderful surprise, because I took it out of the box and that was it, tuned it, and it was just wonderful. Also, I mean, the sound, straight away I plugged it in and it was like, oh, what a development. What a step up that you've made with these basses. And I mean, I love it.
So in fact, like the old one, we're not really sending to retirement. I'm sure it will be used in the future too.
Yeah.
But we just gave it a refreshment, and we just did some adjustments we have never done before on an acoustic bass, because we came up with the idea, instead of doing a massive, thick body, which you normally expect from an acoustic bass, because it already sits in the word acoustic. So you need a big body that can move and get the sound out of it. So we did the first time a very thin line acoustic bass. And both of us, me and you, were very surprised when we played it first, how much punch we can get out of that very thin body.
It's wonderful. It has a volume on it I didn't expect. that amount of volume from such a thin bass.
Yeah, so I mean, again, these are exciting projects to do so, and this keeps also the fire burning, like for a guitar or a bass company, just like to doing new stuff, and also it's just like giving us the possibility, together with such an experienced artist, to develop things. And again, like at the first bass, I mean, we hit it with the first shot, and also from the design wise, I was so happy that you agreed to that we do something like that is a little bit more crazy.
Yeah.
So you did so many recordings, especially in the 80s, like you talked about, from the big international 80s, also from this phenomenon we had in Germany, which we called the Neue Deutsche Welle, the German wave.
Exactly.
With all the artists who played there, you played the basses on, or most of the artists you played the basses on. So, and when I was like a teenage guy, like I always dreamed of those guitars with the reversed headstocks, because all the rock stars played the guitars with the reversed headstock. So, and then I was crazy enough to offer you, hey, why don't we do a homage on the 80s and give an acoustic bass a reversed headstock, which you would not expect. And I mean, you like the idea, right?
I loved it, because in the 60s when I saw Hendrix, that was the first thing that caught my eye. That the neck was the other way around, but I didn't even check that he was playing just a right-handed guitar, left-handed, you know. But it looked great. And then this bass reminded me of that, you know.
So again, we did like we did in the past, we did 3 versions. We did a 4-string, we did a 5-string, and we did the funny little one, which we call the KT-WALKER, which is like a very short scale bass. Nice. But it's not only a fun bass. You really played it live.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I played it live many times.
So we're very, very happy about this cooperation, and we still can go on after all these years, just like to design things together. I mean,
wonderful partnership.
Besides a partnership, there was a great friendship growing.
Yeah.
I mean, we know each other and respect each other since such a long time. It's always so fun to get together.
Oh yeah, Thomas. Yeah.
And there's one thing I don't want to get out of this interview without talking about one thing, is what we also started with the when we did the first Cantala signature models, because I mean, I just have to explain it a little bit. Normally, when you do a signature instrument for somebody, I mean, of course, if somebody gives his name, who is a celebrity or stays in public, they are paid royalties because you use the name, because we have an advantage out of that. From day one, we get together, you and your lovely wife, Felicia, we sit together and we created the idea together that you, as the Taylor family, will not take any royalties on these bases.
That's right.
But we will collect still royalties on these bases, but we will collect them and we will donate every single cent of that royalty monies on charity. And this is what we do since 14 years.
That's right.
Every Cantala bass that was sold so far
That's right.
helped somehow somebody in this world. And this is so fantastic that we can do this together. I mean, isn't it so fantastic that we have the possibility as a producer or designer of an instrument or a guitar company, and on the other hand side, like the artist, the celebrity. I mean, this is small things we are doing, but at least we can doing, and it's such a great feeling that you agreed to it.
That's
and with the new KT models, of course, there is no doubt about it we go on doing these things, and I'm so happy about
That's right, and we're going to carry that on.
Yes.
What a lot of people don't know about me is that my parents came over from Jamaica in the late 40s, and they were immigrants, you know, and not any money. We didn't have money, especially when I was born. My sisters were born in London. We didn't have much, and now after so many years, I have the opportunity to help people, and that's what I'd like to carry on doing.
And we are thankful that we can be a part of it. I mean, just to name two things, we did something for Doctors Without Borders in
That's
the past, which is such an important work worldwide of doctors helping in crisis areas,
That's right.
even doctors losing their lives in doing their job in war areas. You have a special relationship to Africa, to Tanzania.
That's
So
right. With a Good Hope
Good Hope
school
EV.
in
So we
Tanzania.
helped there to build schools and stuff. Just give a little part to them. So and it's really great. We can go on, and I hope we can, together with getting these bases out to all these great players in the world, raise as much as we can.
That's
and
right.
we will keep people informed about
That's right.
what's coming next.
We will help a lot of people.
Yeah, so that's
Hopefully.
again, thank you very much for being a part of that. That's really great.
Right.
So one more question is what we see next from you.
Next for
Is
me,
there anything you can tell? What's going on? What are your plans? Or
I'm
live
carrying
shows?
on in the studio at the moment. You know, there's still, after so many years, 50 years, and still recording with different people. And it's a lot of fun. And but in 2025, there will be a few tours.
So,
I can't say too much at the moment,
of course.
but there'll be some surprises.
So then, please surprise us.
Yes.
Stay healthy.
Yes.
Stay as you are. Me especially, I really appreciate. I can call you a friend.
Thank you.
And
me to you as well.
It's let's keep going, and it's also inspiring to me to see musicians playing the instruments we design, but also at the end it's all about the music, and it's all about the feeling of
That's
music. And I hope we also can inspire the younger generations.
Yes.
Keep doing music.
Yes, exactly.
You don't need to be a perfect player. You don't need to be a fast player. You don't need to be a hypersonic player or whatever. Like you said before, just like keep the fun.
That's right.
And the passion.
That's right.
Practice. Get together with friends. Form a band.
That's
play.
right.
Get a place to play.
That's right.
It's not about hiding mistakes.
No.
It's all about making music.
That's right.
Thanks for being here, Ken.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. All right.